Good evening. Welcome to The Right Stuff. I'm Kevin Posey. Tonight we're going to try, at least, to put a face behind the voice of a microphone in Oklahoma City, 1000 KTOK. Many of you probably, like me, get up and listen to the news on an Oklahoma City radio, probably that of KTOK. And tonight I'm very honored to have with me the guest of that show, Oklahoma's First News, from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Cam Edwards from Oklahoma City is with us this evening. Cam, welcome to Norman.
Hey, Kevin, I appreciate you having me on the program tonight.
Great having you here. Let's get started a little bit. A few things right off the bat, some of the basic stuff. Born in Lawrence, Mass. Is that anywhere near Norman Rockwell country?
Yeah, it is actually. It's a mill town in New England, about 20 miles north of Boston. Was born there, but grew up here in Oklahoma City. My dad worked for Mecklenburg Duncan, and so we moved here when I was 2 years old. And grew up here, went to Mount St. Mary's High School. Actually went to Cross Academy here in Norman for a few years, which was a private school. Graduated from Mount St. Mary, went to Oklahoma State University, but hopefully Norman folks won't hold that against me.
No.
My sister graduated from OU. I've got a nephew at OU as well. So we represent, both the state schools.
Well, you're absolved then.
Well, good.
Glad to have you here.
Well, it's nice to be here.
So, so you're working in radio now. I know previously I watched you on OETA, doing a few things with Oklahoma's PBS affiliate. Tell us about that career there. What was that like?
How does a conservative talk show host work for PBS, right?
Right.
I actually got started in radio back in 1996, and after about 3 years working in radio, I had done a number of things. I'd been a cub reporter, a beat reporter for education and crime. I had been assistant news director. I'd done a nighttime talk show. I had a little baby at the time, just a couple months old. And I had the opportunity to go to work for the documentary department there at OETA and produce television documentaries. And, it was a state job, so we had the state holidays off. The hours were a little bit more regular than what I was used to. And with a baby at home, I thought it would be a good opportunity to get back into TV, which is actually where I started my career. So I did that for a couple of years and had a great time doing it. The State Line program is the name of the show that I worked on, and we just found out a couple of weeks ago we won an Emmy for the last show that I worked on.
Well, congratulations.
Which was a nice way to end my tenure at OETA, but I'm still friends with a lot of the folks over there, and it was a great opportunity to travel around the state. I mean, we went from everywhere from Hardesty up in the Panhandle down to Broken Bow in southeastern Oklahoma, Altus, Bartlesville. We went all over the state, and I really got a chance to appreciate Oklahomans. Having grown up and lived in Oklahoma City and never really got out of Oklahoma City all that much, it was great to go to these small towns and talk with people and really see the difference even between an urban area like Oklahoma City or Norman,
right,
and a place like Perkins or Newkirk, Oklahoma, and to see the people there and the attitude and the issues that they care about was fantastic. It was great. I had a great time doing it. But when Mike McCarville called me a couple of days before Thanksgiving in 2002 and said, "You want to do the morning show?" How can you turn down that? I mean,
Exactly.
How can you turn down the opportunity to go back and host the morning show at the station you started out at? So
Sure.
I was very pleased to go back to KTOK. It was a sad day when I left OETA, but I've had a great time. I've been on the air a little bit more than a year doing Oklahoma's First News, and it's been a great run so far.
I think you're right. I listen to you every chance I get, which is maybe not every day.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah, well, okay. But I do listen, and I'll tell you what, it's just like you say, it's my verbal cup of coffee and gets my blood pumping. So I don't know that my cardiologist would appreciate that, but he might have to up the prescription a little bit. But at least I'm thinking when I'm walking out of the door of the house, and I can run out to the radio and to the car, turn on the radio, and because I don't want to miss any of it. It's good stuff, and it's local. I like a lot of the things that you do. of course, you talk to people from all over the United States, but you do a lot of local stuff too, and that's what I like about. One of the many things I like about your radio station. As far as OETA, wish I'd have known you a few years ago. I'd have had you whip through Okie on your way back from Guyman and Boise City, and we'd have hunted a few rattlesnakes.
Absolutely. I've never actually done that, so
we can still do that. You have a standing invitation.
Okay.
Anytime you want to head to Northwest Oklahoma, where I'm from, the small town of Okie, Oklahoma, we can go up there and hunt some rattlesnakes.
Oh, I love that part of the state. It's just got a natural beauty to it. I mean, one of the things that I discovered about Oklahoma as I was traveling around is that we in central Oklahoma are probably, and I'm going to get a lot of grief for this, but we're probably in the ugliest part of the state. In southeastern Oklahoma, it's very beautiful. Mm-hmm. In northwestern Oklahoma, there's that, it's very reminiscent of the Old West. I mean, right. Wyoming and Utah, and I love that part of the state. Mm-hmm. One of my best experiences ever was being in a panhandle thunderstorm in Hardesty. Pitch black. There was nothing around. We were in between Hardesty and Guyman, I believe,
okay.
and the entire sky
right. There's nothing out there.
Lit up by lightning. It was just it's fantastic. Hanging out in Cheyenne with Representative Frank Lucas and his wheat field as he's on the cell phone with Tom Harkin talking about a farm bill. There's a lot of unique experiences that can be had out there in that part of the state. Yeah,
well, I'd want to be standing next to Frank Lucas during a lightning storm, too. As tall as he is, it's probably going to get him before it gets anybody else.
Absolutely.
So, no, I grew up out there in Okie, Oklahoma, 27 years out there, and I know what you're talking about. It's beautiful country, flat as can be. Here you come, and not a tree in sight.
Yeah.
Then you come down here to the civilized counties, as I refer to them, where you head east, and it's just amazing. Rolling hills, beautiful greenery, and we really do live in a beautiful, beautiful state. So,
and there's something for everybody.
Really
that's what's so great about this state. And talking about Northwest Oklahoma, the New York Times just did a story where they focused on Northwest Oklahoma and the plight of those who stay. And why would they stay? That was a question that they asked. They just couldn't understand how anybody could stay in Northwest Oklahoma or in Oklahoma in general when there are so many better places to live, like Brooklyn and the Bronx. And it was just amazing to me that this reporter had such a hard time understanding why people stay. And it's family. You said that you have a lot of family still in Okie. And there's just something about a small town. There's something about knowing everybody, and you wake up in the morning and you have your routine, and you're just a part of a community.
That's true.
And you don't get that in New York City. You don't really get that in Oklahoma City.
No, and I know living there in Okie, it was, I think if one word would define it, I mean, community. It's not that you're just, even at my age, at 44, I can go back to Okie, Oklahoma, and instead of being Kevin Posey, I'm George and Carol's boy.
Yeah.
And that has its advantages and disadvantages, but it's a great place to live. It's a great place to raise kids, and it's kind of a well-kept secret, I guess, to some degree. And now that the people in New York have discovered it, if they don't like it, they can go back to New York. New York is one of my favorite cities to visit. When I was driving a bus for Red Carpet and we'd go across country, it was just fantastic. I'd go to New York City and there I just couldn't believe here's this old farm boy driving a 45-foot bus, and I'm sitting there at the South Street Seaport. There's the Statue of Liberty, there's the Twin Towers, and what do I want to do first? And
I was lucky enough growing up. We lived in North Jersey for a couple of years, just about 15 minutes away from New York City, and every weekend would go in, and it was always, what are we going to do this time? Are we going to go to the Statue of Liberty? Are we going to go to the Natural Museum of History or the Museum of Natural History? Are we going to go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art? We went down to Philadelphia all the time and would tour the Independence Hall, and it was great. I mean, it was great to live in that part of the country and to have that experience, but I'm really glad that I grew up in Oklahoma. This is where I've chosen to raise my family. I've got 3 kids. My wife is from Philadelphia, but we've made the decision that we want to raise our kids here in Oklahoma. We like the values, we like the people, and there's just something maybe a little bit intangible that you can't get on the East Coast.
The East Coast, I know it seems like there's a lot of small cliques of people and groups, and I don't know. There's sometimes I wish I could live there, but I know that I'd always be an outsider.
Yeah.
But it's a nice part of the country to visit, I guess, and I've had an opportunity a time or two to go there. I've never been to Massachusetts. It's on my list of places to go. Massachusetts is a beautiful state from what I've seen in books and pictures, things like that. But there's that Kennedy thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. Massachusetts is a nice place. It is very. It's tough because I grew up in small town Massachusetts, and I've still got family in small towns there. But Boston, when you go to Boston, I'm a huge Red Sox fan. I love the Boston sports teams. I hate Massachusetts politics with a passion. I can't think of the last Massachusetts politician that I actually approved of, and it pains me to know that my mother, who lived in Massachusetts for 25 years, is a John Kerry supporter. It breaks my heart to know that, but she is.
Well, hopefully his language in recent days won't offend her.
Actually, I'm hoping it does.
Well, maybe
I need to give her a call and let her know.
Maybe that'll be her wake-up call. That would be her verbal cup of coffee.
She relies on me to kind of give her the news, and then she'll disagree with me. So I'm the only conservative in a family of liberals. Well, except for my nephew and my sister, yeah. But other than that, it's a family of Democrats.
Well, that's kind of the way it is whenever I go back up to Okie. If I walk in with an OU shirt on, I'm usually asked to either leave or go outside and change clothes. So
you'd probably be asked to do the same if you went to my house too.
Keep that in mind.
We have a spare OSU jersey for you anytime you want to come.
Yeah, just keep it there on a hanger. Some of the other things that you do, I know you play music, write music. What instrument do you play?
Actually, I'm more of a singer. I play a little bit of the piano, and that's something that really has kind of fallen by the wayside over the past 4 or 5 months. My songwriting partner of a decade or so is now in Japan teaching English. So I've really kind of gotten away from that. That was kind of my hobby, and since I haven't been doing that, I've been doing a little bit more writing. Now I have time to write more essays and columns and op-ed pieces and things like that. So I've started doing that. I'm on a couple of different websites with my columns, and hopefully that'll be expanding here in the next few months.
I hope so. Yeah, I know. Like I say, on the radio, there's you got a great program there. Hopefully, we'll be able to read some of the things in some of the newspapers. Hope you have better luck than I did. Whenever I was here at the University of Oklahoma, I volunteered to be an opinion writer, and I was referred to as the token conservative. And it was an experience. It really was, where I would write a column, and it got to the point where I was parking my car in other places because I'd come out, the hubcaps would be gone, there's graffiti on the side of it. If I inflamed the feminist, then I was referred to as a breeder, and if I somehow offended the homosexual community, it was phone calls galore in the middle of the night kind of thing. And next thing you know, my newspaper columns started missing a paragraph here, a sentence there, and it was so butchered up I didn't recognize it, and no, it didn't make sense, and you can't really defend yourself against something like that.
And it's funny because I actually think and I read a lot of college newspapers because education is one of my big topics, and I love to read what college students are thinking. And the Oklahoma Daily, I think, is one of the better college newspapers out there. Now, the op-ed columnists are a little out there sometimes, but the journalists, I think, do a fantastic job. There have been 3 or 4 stories just since the beginning of school that I've given credit to the Oklahoma Daily and said, hey, these kids are doing really good work. I think when you're in college and you're trying to find yourself, and you want to impress the other students, and you want to impress your professors, and all of your professors are liberal to the extreme, well, you're certainly not going to go against the grain. I mean, as important as dissent is in this culture, you're not going to dissent against the people who are grading you. And so I think you get a really skewed sense of politics and personal morality. And I know I did when I was in college. I mean, I look back to my political views in college as to where I am now. and I'm a completely different person, but I'm
Exactly.
around completely different people. And I take everything that an op-ed columnist in college says with a grain of salt, because I think that they are just they're under the influence, so to speak.
Right. Well, they're kind of there's also like you said, if you go against the professors, you're just you're kind of screwing the pooch, so to speak. But
Can you say that on public access?
I think so.
We just did.
So I know I had some great professors at OU, and but you could tell when things were looking. For example, I was taking a class, one of 2 guys with 13 women, and the 2 guys made D's, and all the women made A's, and they didn't even show up. So whatever that's worth, but. That's one of the things you learn in college that is not necessarily in the curriculum. But at any rate, speaking of school, I know from listening to your show, one of the things that one of your hot buttons is teachers' unions. And let me move my chair away a little bit here. What's your beef with the teachers' unions?
All right, let's get one thing straight.
Okay.
First of all, I love good teachers. I will support good teachers to the ends of the earth, and I've gone and I've taken lunch to teachers. I've gone and just gone into the classroom. Any teacher that wants to have me speak about any current event or anything, I'm there. I've gone to career days for kindergartners, all the way up to leadership classes for Oklahoma high school students. I love good teachers. What I don't like are bad teachers. And I think what the teacher unions do are enable bad teachers to stay in the classroom, because there's no impetus to be better. There's no impetus to be your best, as a matter of fact. And I saw that when I was a state employee. When you have guaranteed job security, when you've reached that point where you're not going to be fired unless you pummel a kid.
Tell them there's no Santa Claus.
You can even keep your job doing that. But
right.
When you have that kind of job security, what difference does it make if you give 100% or 80% on a daily basis? And that's one of the big problems I have. The other problem I have is with the ideology of the teacher unions. I have a huge problem with the NEA on one hand saying they're a professional organization, and on the other hand saying they're a teacher union. It's got to be one or the other, because you're representing 2 completely divergent interests. If you're a teachers union, you're looking out for the teachers. If you're an educators association, you should be looking out for the educational process. And a lot of times those are at odds. And I think that there's good work being done by teachers. There's good work being done by teacher organizations. And look, I'm sure you can find some good in the NEA. I've been looking. I haven't really found a whole lot, but I'm sure you could find it.
Still looking, huh?
But it just comes down to me that I don't appreciate the ideology. I don't like the fact that you can get bad teachers and you can leave them in there. And I think really, when you talk about teacher shortages like what we have here in Oklahoma, we've got a shortage of math and science teachers. It's critical. But what's the answer? The answer is, in a free market, you pay for the demand. I mean, if the demand is high, you pay more. In the educational system, every teacher makes the same starting out. You can't tell a math teacher, hey, we really need you, so we're going to give you $10,000 extra dollars. If you give that math teacher $10,000 extra dollars, you have to pay every other teacher $10,000 more dollars, and then it turns into paying over $1 million to hire a math teacher.
Right.
That doesn't make sense. And when we're talking about the education of our children, I really think, and I've got 2 kids in public school and one that'll be starting in a few years. I just want to make sure that my kids get the best education they can. And I don't think the teacher unions foster a very good system of making sure that happens.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I know I was very blessed up in the small town of Okie, Oklahoma. I'll tell you, some of the greatest influences on my life were my grade school teachers. And high school teachers as well, but those 6 women who were my grade school teachers, elementary teachers, God bless them. They had the work cut out for them, but it was more like going to grandma's house every day rather than going to school. And we learned something, we had a good time, but we weren't pumped full of the ideology that you see today coming out of these kids. And I was a state employee for a couple of years as well, and I know exactly what you mean. I'd go to work and give it 110%, and another guy would sit there and eat carrots straight out of the bag, and he was making just as much as I was. And
Absolutely.
It's just not. It's just not fair.
If we want our teachers to excel, and we want them to give 100%, I think the good teachers deserve to be paid more than the bad teachers. And that's really what I'm all about, is let's reward success and let's reward achievement. And I know that the NEA says, well, there's no way to measure achievement. Look, we do it in every other job in this country. Why can't we measure success in terms of education? Private schools somehow find a way to quantify success of teachers. And they pay teachers based on performance. So if the private schools can do it, why can't the public schools do it? I have such a huge problem with this, and it really does just drive me crazy because I've gone around and around. In fact, there's a story that's out of New York about per pupil expenditures, and we've tied it in here locally a little bit. With this, I think it's Bridgehampton is the name of the town. It's in Long Island. Very nice resort community. It's on the tip of Long Island. They're paying $25,000 per pupil in per pupil expenditures. They've got an average class size of 3.7 kids for every teacher. They're below the state average in test scores in math and English. You know, throwing money at the problem, throwing money at you know, reducing class size and things of that nature, at some point you reach the point of diminishing returns.
Sure.
Why not? I would rather have my kid in a class with a teacher that I know is a good teacher and 40 other kids than in a class with 10 other kids and a teacher who doesn't know what they're talking about.
Right. Most of the classes I was in when I was in elementary school, 30, 25, 30, 35 kids. You know, it was great. You know, I mean, she had complete total control of the classroom, first grade through sixth grade, and why that can't be done today is beyond me.
Well, that comes to the other problem, and it is a big problem, and it's one that I maybe don't talk about enough. But that is the problem of apathetic parents. I mean, you have the problem of the teacher unions, but just as important, if not more important, is the problem of parents who don't care. They don't devote enough time, and it's tough. I mean, it's tough when you work 8 or 9 hours a day and you get home and you make dinner, and after dinner you want to sit in front of the TV for a couple hours, you want to veg out, you don't want to deal with things, but you know, you're doing your kids a disservice. And I was amazed when I started talking to my kids every day about what they learned in school, when I would help my son or my daughter with their homework and find out what they didn't know. My daughter, who was in AP Math, at the beginning of the school year, had a homework assignment to write out the multiplication tables because nobody in her class knew what 2 times 4 was. This is a junior in high school in an advanced placement math class, and we're getting to that point. And you as a parent can combat that. You can fight it and you can help your kids out, but it takes time and it takes energy. And so many parents, I think, just don't go that extra mile.
I agree with you. And the business that I'm in now, driver training, and you can tell the kids that dad and mom have worked with them driving a car. Hopefully they do it legally, by getting the permit and teaching the kid how to drive. Everybody has to learn somewhere. But then you also get to these with these parents that, like you said, they just don't care. And some of the horror stories that I could tell about some of the things about some of the kids that I've been driving around with and trained is it's not really anything that I want to do on TV, but it's I know what you mean, and it just breaks your heart to know that I think there's a lot of talented kids out there, a lot of intelligent kids out there.
Yeah.
And I think to some degree, they're being held back not only by the school system, but by the parents as well because of the lack of encouragement.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. And at some point, though, and it's really an issue that I think is going to be of preeminent importance as we go into the presidential elections and we start talking about the No Child Left Behind Act. When you think about the concept, and this is one of the things that I really am critical of the president about and Republicans for supporting this bill, when you think about the concept of not leaving anybody behind, what does that mean? It means you slow down to let these people catch up. So you take the smart kids and you say, well, hold on a second.
Right.
We got to wait for Bobby there to catch up with you before we can all move on. It sounds cold, it sounds callous to say that we're going to leave kids behind. How about we let some of the good kids and some of the talented kids move forward and dedicate resources to those kids that are going to be a step or two behind.
Makes sense to me. We've only got about 2 or 3 minutes left here, Cam. It's the fastest 30 minutes on television.
No kidding.
What else? Tell us what else Oklahoma City and Norman needs to know about Cam Edwards.
Well, you know, I love doing the radio show every morning. I have a lot of fun with that. I have a lot of fun with the website. I plan on being here for, you know, quite some time. I've got a 3-year-old at home, and we have decided that for now anyway, this is where we want to raise our kids. So, you know, we're here. We're not going anywhere. We're going to keep raising eyebrows. We're going to keep raising blood pressure on the morning show, and that's what we're there for.
Well, that's what it takes, because I can tell you, my wife can tell you that complacency, you know, it's comforting to say, okay, we're all comfortable, everything's fine, but is that really the best thing? I know, and I applaud you for not taking the easy way out, you know, but this, like you say, here, staying in Oklahoma, I think it's a good place to raise kids. Hopefully you'll be around for a while. And I know in on your website, you say you have a goal in life where you try every day to fight the battles that will make the world a good place to raise children of their own. Is there a political career in Cam Edwards?
No political career.
Pin you down like Hillary or anything.
Absolutely not. No, I like fighting the battles on the microphone because I can be completely politically incorrect and I can be completely honest. I don't have to worry about influencing anybody's vote.
Well, that's good. I think that's a wise choice. Although I would like to see someone of your caliber there in the Capitol, in Washington D.C. But
I appreciate that, but
I get my vote in a little campaign.
Well, I appreciate that, but you know, I'd have to give up the talk show to run. I don't know, what would I do for a living for a year while I ran a campaign? I know, no way. So no, I'm happy where I am. I have a lot of fun, and you know, we're gonna keep keeping on. We live in a great state. We live in a great country. We just have to fight those battles every day to make sure that it gets better and not worse.
Okay. Well, it's been my pleasure to have Cam Edwards of KTOK Radio, Oklahoma's First News, as my guest this evening. And thank you for tuning in to The Right Stuff with Kevin Posey. Don't forget to listen to Cam Edwards. Thank you for joining us.